Welcome to part 4 of Garage Talk, in which I discuss tire tools for dirt bikes. This is about the most basic tire changing setup you could have. So either 2 or 3 tire levers and some lube in a spray bottle. The lube is made up of water and a little bit of dish soap. Here you can see various tire levers. These ones are the ones I showed before, which are a spoon shape, fairly wide. They're good because they're rounded and don't easily damage the rims. One thing to note is that the tip is fairly long, so when you're taking the tire off or putting a new one on, if it's in too far, it can pinch the tube, or if you're using tubeless, it can damage the tubeless liner. So that's one thing to be careful of. My favorite tire lever is actually this one made by Motion Pro. In contrast to the tire spoons, you can see the tip is much smaller, and it just hooks over the rim, and there's virtually no chance of pinching the tube when you're using these. So I really like these. I'll put the part number in the description of the video. However, one thing to note is that the edges are quite sharp, and it's easy to scratch your rims. I don't really care much about scratches on my rims because I ride off-road in rocks, etc., and they get scratched up anyway. But if you want to avoid scratching, this might not be the tire lever for you to use. These ones I carry in my backpack while riding. Very lightweight. They're made of 70-75 aluminium, and there's 2, and this end comes with inserts. I've got the 27mm one in now for my rear axle, but nicely made, strong, and I especially like this one. The tip has this little bit here which allows it to slip onto the rim and hold it nicely without going deeply in, so that's really nice for putting a tire back on and avoiding pinching a tube or damaging the tubeless system. So if you want to carry a set while riding, these ones, I know Motion Pro also make a similar set, so definitely recommend getting some of those. And this one comes in the KTM toolkit, and it's a wrench, so this end you can do your spark plug and the front axle nut, and this end you can do the rear axle nut, but this part you can also use as a tire lever, so this is a really handy tool to carry while riding as well. This one's made of steel, so it's quite a bit heavier than these, but still good to carry anyway because you can use it so many different ways. And the ones on the end I pretty much never use. They're very long. You can get a lot of force into the tire, but they're really intended for car tires, or maybe if you're changing mousses, they might be useful, but for regular dirt bike tires with tubes or tubeless, I wouldn't really recommend these. It would be very easy to damage the tire because you can apply so much force. And if you're concerned about getting scratches on your rims while changing tires, you can get these protectors, which are made of plastic and typically come in a set of 3. So you just slip them over the rim, and then you can use a tire lever over the top in the normal way. I don't typically use them for off-road rims, but road bikes, they're very useful to have, and definitely prevent getting scratches, although they do take does take a little longer to change the tire using these. So these tools are called Bead Buddies, and they're both made by Motion Pro. So you can see 2 different types, a large version and a small version. The purpose is the same. The large ones I keep in my car, and I use tubeless, so I use 3 of these for putting on a new tire. And what they do is you clip it onto the rim, and then this part holds the tire bead down into the valley of the rim, and it makes it a lot easier to put the tire on. The small version, I just have one, and I keep that in my backpack, and it performs the same purpose. This part holds the bead down into the valley of the rim. These tools are all Schrader valve core tools. I use this one at home. It's probably the easiest to use because of the large handle, and I keep that one in my backpack and that one in the car. And for tire punctures, I use tubeless, so I can use a plug kit like this. And this one has a hollow handle, which stores all the tools, so you don't lose them. And also, if you're carrying them on the trail in your backpack, you don't have anything sharp sticking out. So this is a nice kit to have. And then you need some sticky strings, and I also use a little bit of glue on the sticky string, which makes it a little bit easier to install the sticky strings. And while riding, I also carry this puncture repair kit, which can be used on motorcycle tubes or on a tubeless high pressure tube in an emergency. It contains some cement, sandpaper and various tubes. For tire inflation at home, I use my air compressor and this digital pressure gauge, which has a switch here to control the inflation. And I put this quick change connector on, so I can use a couple of different adapters. For the dirt bike, I typically use this 90-degree adapter, which is very easy to use. And for tire inflation on the trail, I use a lightweight bicycle pump. And I also have a digital pressure gauge made by Panaracer. I also have this digital floor pump made by Serfas, which is nice to use and also has a easy to read digital display. The maximum pressure the pump can inflate to is 160 psi. So the tubeless high pressure tube, which requires 110 psi, is no problem. Also, the pump digital display, the resolution is 0.5 psi, so inflating the tire pressure at low pressure, for example, my rear tire I inflate to 4 psi, so I can do that pretty accurately using this pump. And for dirt bikes, I typically only balance the front wheel, and I use this static balancer. And then for balancing the rims on a static balancer, I either use stick-on weights like these. These ones are made by Motion Pro. They're a little bit wide for KTM EXC off-road rims. So for those, I typically use brass weights, which I make myself, and attach them to the spokes, as you can see here. And finally, I'd like to show my tire changing tool. This is made by TMT, and the model number is TMT2. Unfortunately, they no longer make this model, which is a real shame because it's pretty much ideal for changing tubeless system tires. I do have a video showing how I use this for a tubeless change, so please watch that if interested. But some of the features are, it comes with a TMT tool, which pushes the tire onto the rim, and it also comes with 4 pushers. So 3 pushers are like this with flat feet, which can be used to keep the tire down into the valley of the rim, which is really helpful for when doing tubeless changes. And one of the pushers has an L-shaped foot for debeading the tire, so you just, when you want to take the tire off, you just push it down with this, and it comes off very easily. And then when you're not using the tire changer, it folds up nice and small and can be stored on the wall easily. So that's it for part 4 of Garage Talk. In part 5, I'll be discussing a toolkit which you can carry in your truck.